Some say the children are the 35,000 children trapped in tunnels. For me, it's different. For me, the children is your auntie. Now she means well, your auntie. But now your auntie reckons Lady Gaga does panda eye makeup to tell everyone she's a pedo. She's like a lost child. She's lost in Facebook, your auntie. Who are the children? Depends on who you ask. Whether it's an underground tunnel or a cooked rabbit hole, I'm gonna go down this fucking hole and save the shit out of them. Now, I'm generally of the opinion that if resources already exist, then I should not replicate them for the fuck of it, for content. And that doesn't bode well for my future on, say, YouTube, where everybody does the same 2-hour video about everything daily forever. However, the subject of QAnon has captured the attentions of everybody right now. And increasingly, that's due to material that's like a real departure from the content that, even 6 months ago was core QAnon material. Because now it's all tunnels and sexualised kids and panda eyes, slutty dolls. I've given comment to 2 journos on QAnon stuff in the past month, and I'm sure there's going to be more. The opinion pieces, fountain forth like a geyser. There's 1,000 more to come, I'm absolutely sure. Do I need to make more of that shit? And I'd have said no. But there's far too little work that talks about the Aussie Q. What is that? Here in Australia, more and more people are jumping on the Q train, whether they know it or not, as an experiment in either sheltering themselves from a pandemic or because they're a cynical fuck and they're furthering a political or a commercial agenda. So we need to know how this relates to Australia right now. And importantly, and this is sort of personal for me, I'm seeing and hearing of loved ones and the loved ones of my friends falling like dominoes for this shit. It's becoming surprisingly broad in its appeal as it's sort of diversified and turned into a whole new hippie-ish beast. I am cursed, whatever, to have learned all about Q for fucking far too long now.
The Q in there. I see you.
Oh, wow. Can I get a photo?
Oh, yeah. Q Australia.
Did you make it? Yes, my daughter.
I'm also one of a relatively small pool of Australian content creators with a fair bit of the prerequisite knowledge about Q to convey. There's a steep learning curve. So it's kind of my job to go into the tunnels. So let's talk Q. Let's talk about what Q is, what Aussie Q is. Let's talk about tunnels and panda eyes and some of the current Q talking points. Let's consider how Q relates to the overall anti-lockdown movement, and then let's zoom out and talk about what causes people to become conspiracy-minded. Then let's talk about why we should even give a fuck. And finally, let's talk about how, if at all possible, you can coax your QAnon auntie back out of the tunnels. I do hope for this to be a resource. That's why it goes for a very long time. Maybe it can help you get your auntie back. All right, Patriots, let's do some research. What is Q? Q is a fictitious American super spy or group of elite super spies. Q's like a badass military 007 patriot. Q is an anomaly in the elite echelons of power in America because he is aligned, thank God, with the great white hope, Donald Trump. There's only a small selection of other powerful figures and government agencies who are on the same side as those such as Q and Trump, because the majority have, tragically, sold out to the deep state. So what's the deep state? Well, it's the network of elite figures and institutions secretly governing not only America, but the entire world. Endlessly corrupt and shadowy, the deep state is even either directly supportive of or outright synonymous with the cabal. The network of elites who abuse children and get away with it. Who is the shadowy cabal? Stop it. Tell me off the top of your head something. Tell me something. Why don't you believe in QAnon? Particularly now that it's gone all subtle and weird and hashtag save the children. Let's go through it. I think that being in a strong position to deny QAnon content right off the bat takes a shit ton of prerequisite knowledge. Let's list it. You need to know about old school internet forum culture. You need to know about image board culture. So I mean 4chan, 8chan, 8kun. You need to know about the alt-right revolution online. 4chan leading to Anonymous, leading to Gamergate, leading to this alt-right pro-Trump nationalism wave from 2015-16. And that therefore means that you need to know about what the alt-right actually is. And that therefore entails you understanding about nationalism and fascism. So add those to the bundle. You need to know about Pizzagate, what the hell that is. You also need to know about all of the conspiracy threads that QAnon, which is a big tent conspiracy theory, has rolled into itself. You need to know about online fact-checking techniques and fake news. You need to have a proper comprehensive knowledge of the culture wars from 2015 to date, and you need to know about how they've cultivated online fringe armies. And that is a lot of shit. And a lot of us are busy fucking cooking dinner and picking up children and stuff. Are you an expert in all of that? No? Well, then maybe you need to count yourself lucky that you aren't sucked in, my friend. Now, I'm just saying, I'm not here in general to shame and laugh at QAnon followers necessarily. And this shit is fucking stupid, corny and surreal. But you're lucky, is what I'm saying, that you don't believe in it. Or you're very, very educated. Think about that while you roll your eyes about the cabal, you fucking leftist, elitist snob. You should be ashamed of yourself. No, not really. I mean, I'm a leftist, elitist snob too. But I'm just saying, in this house, we aim for the big dogs. The QAnon content grifters and Q himself, which we'll get into, not the saps who got fooled by it. Okay? That's what we do in this house. Anyway, let's move on. Child abuse conspiracy is integral to QAnon. Some key events laid the groundwork for this obsession. One is the October 2016 WikiLeaks release of emails from the Clinton presidential campaign. And specifically, a trove of emails from former White House Chief of Staff, John Podesta. I've read John's emails. There's definitely code for something in them. But at the height of the 2016 election campaign, with far-right conspiracy theorists working overtime to propagandise a cooked path for Donald Trump into the White House, the now dead image board 4chan and prominent conspiracy grifters like Alex Jones took a leap of faith, and they confidently asserted that the use of coded language like pizza, pasta and walnut sauce in the emails, again, yes, I get it, pretty weird, was actually coded language for ritual organised child sexual abuse. Because, of course, the natural assumption to make when you don't know a code, of course, is to assume that it's pedo code. For example, whenever I get a text I don't understand, I immediately respond and accuse the messenger of being a pedo. This is what you've probably heard termed as Pizzagate. Another key event was the popularisation of cool spy tales for the enjoyment of neckbeards on image boards like 4chan. Anyone who likes super spy tropes and tales is very partial to spicy spy-flavoured conspiracies, and these are very popular among the right-wing fringe, actually. They're like the patriotic alternative to the more hippie, crystal-flavoured theories, you know. Some like it nag champer-flavoured, others like it with a taste of pelican brief. Now, Q isn't the first time a super secret spy or intelligence official apparently took time out of their incredibly busy schedule to hop onto an obscure image board, you know, popular with pedophiles and right-wing extremists to have a chat about what they're up to behind closed doors. For a while there, if you were gullible enough to believe everything that you read on 4chan, you'd be forgiven for thinking that half of the top intelligence officials in America were all on there all the time. FBI anon, for example, HLI anon. There were heaps of them, and this was a whole genre.
G'day guys, sorry to interrupt. I actually work for the CIA, and I've chosen this website to come on and secretly tell you a bit about this big anti-pedophile scheme that we're cooking up. I've chosen you guys. I'm not going to tell anyone else about it. This is really big news, and I'm going to get in a lot of trouble if it gets found out that I'm telling you guys about this, but I just think this is the perfect website. Sorry, mate, I'll just stop you there. That sounds really cool, but this is the Lolita porn page on this website. Oh, really? Yeah, so here we sort of share Lolita stuff, children underage. We're actually, it's mostly pedophiles in this bit of, Lolita, so that's not really our jam. Right. This is a very pro-pedophile page on this website, but perhaps you'd like to go to the poll page just over there. Right, okay. The political one. They might be more interested because, then I'll... I mean, if you've got a conspiracy to arrest pedophiles, it'd probably be arresting us, so we're not keen on that. But good luck. I'm sure they'll have you. I'll go over there then. I'll tell them. Cheers. All right, I'll go and talk to them. Thanks for that, guys. Thank you. See you later. All the best.
So, Pizzagate didn't die out, and these super spy drops on 4chan were hot property. The only difference in late October 2017, when Q dropped his first post on 4chan, was that a bunch of conspiracy accounts all banded together to signal boost this one particular super spy. It would be more collectively beneficial to them and their careers if they all sort of signal boosted one spy rather than getting behind all different spies. That's what they thought. And they were absolutely right. Their gamble paid off, and Q quite quickly became the most dominant narrative in hyper-conservative circles. Now, Q's messages, or drops, formed the cornerstone of the QAnon universe, at least for the first year or two of QAnon. They are basically meant to be predictions. Q's first and most popular narrative revolved around the storm. And the storm is derived from an offhand cryptic Trump remark at an early press conference at the beginning of his presidency. Now, this storm was in fact, so Q said, a series of planned, coordinated arrests of an array of key deep state, senior Democrat and other powerful officials, all part of the cabal. Here's the thing, figures like Podesta and Clinton and many Hollywood stars complicit in the ritualised rape and torture and murder of children would all be swept up at once. That's the storm, and whisked away to Guantanamo Bay to face justice for their crimes. I'm Q, I'm getting on here to let you know what's just about to happen, because, I need to tell you fringe kooks on this image board about it. It was just about to happen. Any day now. Any day now. Hold on, any day. Anyway, that was almost 3 years ago, and now there's over 4,000 Q drops. I get them on my phone through a QAnon app I downloaded because I'm a masochist. New QAnon drop, ding, all the time, twice a day. There's apps, there's tons of merch available, everything. There's a whole little culture that's sprung up around it. I will say this, there has been a couple of fluke accuracies in Q predictions, and that's fine. That's Okay. I personally think that if you spend years spamming predictions daily about the political moves of a very small, specific cluster of senior officials, you're probably eventually going to get one or two of those predictions right? However, mostly there's now thousands of ridiculous, glaring Q omissions, failures, gross errors. The overarching narrative, again, hyper-conservative spy revenge fantasy about how a bunch of Hollywood celebs and politicians who all rape children and murder them and suck the adrenochrome out of their bodies, who are going to get shot in Gitmo by Trump, that's never come true because it's not remotely true. Now, that is not to say that pedophilia among the powerful or anybody is not worth urgently investigating. So we all know, for example, that the arrest and not suicide of Jeffrey Epstein last year exposes, some pretty shady fucking secrets among certain elites. And I'm interested in that. I got bitten by the Epstein bug, not pedophilia. I'm in researching into what's going on with Epstein. And I wouldn't question anyone else's interest either. So that's fine. But remember, Epstein was bribing, manipulating, and raping teenage girls. And that is fucking grotesque. And we don't miss him, that's for sure. But that is not the same as satanic Democrats murdering little children aged under 9 for the adrenochrome in their bodies. You see the difference there? More importantly, the Epstein stuff is true. The adrenochrome stuff is not. Anyway, the real-world Epstein stuff kind of fails to grasp the point of QAnon, which is not to do any real work, and it's not even about asking real questions. It is, in fact, the complete opposite. It's to enjoy the show, as Q repeatedly says at the end of his drops. You're supposed to sit back and wait. Wait is the operative word there for all the Hollywood stars and Clinton and Podesta and whoever they don't like next to be arrested for pedophilia. Relax, just chill out. I'll vote for Trump in November. Yeah, but apart from that, wait, do nothing. No QAnon or Q ever exposed a real fact about Epstein. Ever. Or any real pedo. Never. They just shitpost. It was journos and other investigators who exposed Epstein, not anyone to do with Q. And anyway, one of the deepest connections to Jeffrey Epstein is Donald J. Trump. Not many people, aside from the press, can say that they had civil suits filed against them, subsequently dropped in 2016, just before his campaign, mind you, but filed against them, accusing them of raping little girls on Epstein's private island. And that's pretty sus, isn't it? Trump's name is on private flight logs as having gone to Epstein's private island, which is a little bit sus, I think. Trump's on film at private parties, seemingly picking out women with Epstein. Very sus. Apparently, Epstein's best fucking mate, the prez, is some anti-pedo god king, though, and we're expected to ignore all the Epstein stuff and believe that? Now, there's some people who suggest that the entire point of QAnon is, in fact, to keep conspiracy-minded conservatives, in America, shying away from asking those exact questions. But hey, why am I talking about boring old reality? QAnon is an alternative reality for many, many conservatives.
They've accused all of these people, from celebrities to politicians, of being a part of a child sex ring that simply does not exist.
What they believe to be global pedophile networks amongst the elites all over the world. They have no evidence for this. It's really crazy stuff.
Right-wing online community that pushes false conspiracy theories, including that a child sex ring is being run by Hollywood celebrities and Democratic politicians.
In this alternate reality, as time passed and Q drops continued to not come true, future proves past became a popular Q slogan. Essentially, Q has transitioned into being a kind of Tom Clancy Nostradamus. And that progression was duly aided by the proliferation of a bunch of QAnon sympathetic conspiracy accounts, hosted by our biggest social media platforms, of course, who have always, as I say, baked the crumbs, which is the act of decoding these cryptic Q drops. And they are very open to interpretation. Here's a typical Q drop.
US taxpayer is greater than federal government. Federal government. Hussein is greater than Pearson Publishing. Pearson Publishing is greater than Hussein. Biden, follow the money. Corruption. Q.
So, divining what all of this means is out and open and in the hands of the many Q accounts. They can say anything they like about them. And of course they do. It's their game as much as it is Q's. You know, this conspiracy is open source. Moving into the past year, the open source nature of QAnon has led to some significant changes. The QAnon universe and follower base has indeed transformed radically. I believe that you can cover the past 6 months of QAnon, possibly without referencing even a single Q drop. There's this thing, right, called the Great Awakening, which is, it's originally supposed to be the moment in which you realise that your estranged QAnon auntie was actually right about all the satanic pedos, and, you know, you suddenly start talking to her again and we can all praise Donald Trump together. But that Great Awakening concept has gained legs and it's kind of gone walkabout. Because you know who likes awakenings? Hippies and influencers. And now they've got a hold of it. All of this has been supercharged by the uncertainty and anxiety of the pandemic in 2020, and QAnon really has diversified and it's taken on this quasi-spiritual element. So there's now a Q church in Florida, would you believe? Hippies, neo-spiritualists, multi-level marketers, Instagram personalities, and other assorted pests and leeches have all wised up to the commercial and viral value in signalling to QAnons. You can kind of do it now with even being all that publicly MAGA, and that's why you'll have noticed such a strange array of people with like diverse political inclinations all suddenly hashtagging QAnon and QAnon adjacent stuff and, you know, decrying masks and whatever else. Your auntie probably doesn't even know about Pizzagate and the Guantanamo Bay stuff yet. She just doesn't like child sex rings and hates her granddaughter playing with sexy toys and really likes the sound and the feel, the mouth feel of a Great Awakening. So, and I'm just saying, if Auntie is posting Q or Q adjacent content, she's not necessarily a Trumper or a hyperconservative. Yet, QAnon is part boomer share spamming addiction, it's part hippie LSD trip, it's part Tom Clancy spy novel, it's part Alex Jones rant in terms of mouthfeel. But what Q mostly is a pipeline. In 6 months, your auntie probably will be a Trumper, even if she lives in Australia, because Q is all about, you know, installing Trump as a divine God king. But I have to say, it took way less time than I thought it would for QAnon to leave the American crib and to contextualise fully to an Australian audience.
Where we go, run, we go.
Because that's what it's done. We do have Aussie Q now. And what the fuck is that? What is Aussie Q? So how does old school QAnon content relate to Australia? The answer's simple. Not at all.
G'day digital soldiers worldwide. Coming to you from Australia, where the last constitution voted on by the people was the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1900, UK. This constitution has been usurped without a referendum in the decades since. Hence my oath today takes this into account. I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend all people's constitutions where fairly voted on by the people, against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me God. Where we go one, we go all. Missions forward, patriots. I am so honoured to serve alongside so many kicking good friends.
Q's purely American, and it is designed to make American aunties lose all their family and friends and spam MAGA shit online and, hopefully get Trump re-elected. That's the whole point. Nothing to do with Australia. But I don't know if you know, but there's a bit of a chest bug going around. You may have heard. That has got people a little bit worried. I must say, for a narrative that bills itself as anti-state and anti-power, it's not at all. Q's real motivations in terms of fantasising about sympathetic right-wing power are laid bare by just how good it has been as being a tool for politicians to use to cynically grab power. There are currently two explicitly pro-QAnon congressional candidates in America. One of them, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is all but guaranteed to enter Congress next year. She got up in the Republican nominations, and it's a pretty safe area. Signalling to QAnons helped her. That realisation that it can be helpful to channel the loyalties of this, terminally online digital army, as they call themselves, is spreading out from America all over the world because people like power. So why wouldn't they access it? You may have heard of Burn Spy, for example, a friend of Scott Morrison's family who, as it turned out, is a QAnon convert. Polly's like George Christensen, and if you look at his follower list on the new right-wing social media network Parler, you can see he's already got quite a few QAnon people he's following, so you can tell he's probably rolling around the mouthfeel of this particular spy revenge fantasy in his mouth to see how, politically expeditious it might be for him. Josephine Cashman, formerly a member of the Indigenous Advisory Council, has become quite unstable and very Q-pilled. Interestingly, in the 2020 Eden Monaro by-election, we saw our first explicitly QAnon signalling candidate for the Australia One Party, a guy called Ricardo Bossi. And Ricardo doesn't give a shit about anything, actually. He's just a grifter, but he's always glommed on to scumbag far-right politics in an attempt to try and maybe use their populism to offset his complete lack of charm. And now he's using all the Q hashtags and making demands over supposed pedophile suppression orders that ex-Senator Bill Heffernan once accused the government of having put into place to try and ascertain how effective Aussie QAnons are at helping you build a political campaign.
You've heard about the deep state in the US?
I've been talking about the deep state about 50 times.
Well, don't think that that deep state doesn't have its hooks in Australia.
Yeah.
But here's something interesting, though. I have been told that Ricardo received advice and assistance from a member of the team, United Collective they're called, that celebrity chef turned QAnon Pete Evans recently assembled after he began his descent into QAnon signalling. It wasn't really clear what the point of Pete's team was, but you have to ask yourself, was political lobbying part of their vision? That's interesting.
That's interesting. Could that actually be taking place?
Anyway, so it can make people money to feed the Q chooks. It cultivates political power sometimes too. We know that. We get that. Power, yummy. Money, yummy.
During the pandemic, the QAnon movement appears to be gaining a lot of followers. Can you talk about what you think about that and what you have to say to people who are following this movement right now?
Well, I don't know much about the movement other than I understand they like me very much, which I appreciate.
That's why it was always going to come here. But Q's changed so much. Now we have like this wave, this new gen wave of concerned mums and hippies and Facebook boomers in Australia all kind of frenziedly sharing content about tunnels and panda eyes.
And here's the thing, and there's no way in hell I'm going to leave this unsaid if I'm talking about Aussie Q. I blame multi-level marketers for so much of the recent spread and hippification of conspiracy theories, QAnon and anti-lockdown sentiment. These people, their whole thing is manipulating their wider social network to sell snake oil. And I'm going to lump people like life coaches and such in with this. Apologies if you're a life coach who's a decent human listening. I'm just saying there's a certain type of person in these scenes. They have this facile obsession, mostly for sales purposes, of telling everyone else how they work when they want and they do what they want and they don't have a boss. And it's all to try and stimulate wage slaves like the rest of us to participate in their pyramid schemes. And they have internalised that to the degree that the hardest thing in the world for them to stomach is the idea that now they have to do things collectively. Also, they can't sell their fucking doTERRA out on the street or what have you, because the lockdown has taken that away from them. And they've noticed the spread of conspiracy theory, and that is their new doTERRA. Instead of selling and manipulating their wider social network to buy snake oil, now they're selling conspiracies. Take out the multi-level marketers. End doTERRA. All parasites. I hate them so much. Fuck you. Fuck all of you. It's all their fault. Even fucking Pete Evans is now doing a deal with doTERRA. If you want to end the entire anti-lockdown movement, seed the following conspiracy theory. doTERRA oils contain adrenochrome. Tell everyone that. You would send so many of these doTERRA fucking grifters packing if you sent that one out there that there would be no more Facebook live peddling grifters left. doTERRA oils contain adrenochrome.
They're hippies and influencers and Christian mums with their own grift, their own angle. And a lot of their stuff is out of Q's control to, influence too hard with a Q drop. Q isn't so much guiding this tunnels and sexualised children shit so much. So it's taken on a life of its own. Let's look at the corona mums and the tunnels shit. Let's go down the tunnels. What's going on with tunnels? Here's a question for you. Are abused and mangled kids trapped in an underground tunnel network beneath Melbourne being secretly freed by the Australian Defence Force under the guise of fake coronavirus lockdowns? Ask yourself. Really ask yourself.
Just last week, I was up in a starship. My consciousness was extracted from this body while I was sleeping, and my consciousness was taken up into the starship where I was doing energy healing for the children, some of the children who have been saved. And it's tough. It's tough.
What is this? It's an adaptation of an American conspiracy narrative that was kind of QAnon birthed or QAnon follower birthed, but isn't really guided by the Q drops. And it's interesting in that sense. It's what it is it's fodder for this new gen Australian audience of scared corona mums. So no, there is no tunnel thing. They just changed the place names from America. The story in America goes that trapped and severely deformed kids enslaved by the elite satanic cabal, adrenochrome, blah, 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 have been trapped for years in an underground tunnel network beneath New York, and specifically Central Park. So coronavirus lockdowns, because coronavirus is a hoax, of course, so they're just a distraction. The truth is that this army, the American army, under the influence of, the God King Donald Trump, the liberator, using lockdowns for the hoax coronavirus as a cover to free those poor mole children, as they're sometimes called, from the tunnels without any public oversight or interference. There were some photos of COVID-19 testing tents that were, snapped by QAnon accounts and shared around as these white tents were obviously rescuing facilities to care for these poor children. So how does that relate to here? Not at all. But all you have to do is change the place names from New York to Melbourne. Conspiracy narratives about mangled underground kids have persisted for years. It's a really easy trope to invoke, Good conspiracies last for a very long time and take on new shapes and forms. You might remember Bat Boy, which is the Weekly World News' favourite story, or their most popular one from back in, I think, 1992. Like most QAnon narratives, this story's power lies in its appeal to our natural desire to protect kids, which is very natural. Budding QAnon dupes, they fly under the radar, actually, by sharing these innocuous hashtag Save the Children or hashtag Save Our Children content, which seems fine. And it would be if the children and abusers they had in mind weren't made-up ones who star in this, persistent US fairy tale meant to build fringe support for Donald Trump. And of course, if you want to get scared corona mums going down the rabbit hole, what's going to give them that first nudge? Kids. Kids, man. Of course. Of course they're worried about kids. They're mums.
Something with a veneer of even more legitimacy is the recent QAnon sharing of content from Operation Underground Railroad. They're a Mormon-led evangelical intervention initiative. They conduct raids overseas on child sex traffickers by posing as clients seeking out children before arresting the traffickers in conjunction with local law enforcement. Our founder Tim Ballard recently indulged QAnons by sharing content from the recent Wayfair hysteria, and that is the stupid idea that children are being covertly trafficked through Wayfair, a shopping site. I think he did it mostly to get some attention and donations from the very online QAnon base, but nonetheless. Tim's modern-day social justice-oriented rebranding of missionary work is also explicitly pro-Trump, pro-building a wall, anti-migration and anti-sex work. I'm happy if they're doing good out in the world, but also I have to question the intentions of evangelicals who are proactively anti-children in cages when the men doing the caging are evil brown men, while also being actively pro-children in cages when the men doing the caging are white American presidents. That's not even to cover the lack of apparent afterwork they do with the victims of sex work they've come in to liberate on video, or the rumours of misspent donation funds. Why would you want real work on trafficking to be muddled up with the QAnon delusion? Maybe Tim's evangelical politics aren't exactly a world removed from QAnon.
So there's this recent video of an Aussie corona mum howling about sexy toys, and it went very viral and was shared by mainstream media outlets. And hey, cool. Whatever, don't buy sexy toys. I don't know, but I'm not going to shit on parents worrying about the sexualized toys for kids. But these posts, and that one in particular, that video is interesting because she is contextually, she genuinely thinks that there is a global commercial and celebrity conspiracy to abduct and rape children. So that informs her content and that video. That same woman was posting elsewhere on her timeline about panda eyes and Lady Gaga. That's another thing your auntie's probably posting. The idea is that celebs, in particular but not limited to Lady Gaga, are secretly signalling their desire to sodomise children and to get everyone else to do so as well by donning panda eyes makeup because I fucking hate saying this. I fucking hate doing this video so much because raped children apparently develop bruises on their eyes. Ugh. Look, here's what I hate about this stuff. Lady Gaga cops it, not because any of that's true, surprise, surprise, but because Lady Gaga is a now and again soft celeb lefty. Another person, Chrissy Teigen, she cops it all the time from QAnons. They fucking love her because Chrissy doesn't like Trump and she posts about it. That's how these manipulative, cheap, tasteless, horrible cunts select their targets. They're supposed celebrity pedophiles. It's a left-right culture war tool. I hate it. I honestly hate it so fucking much. Imagine how low you've got to be to label everyone whose politics you don't like as a pedo. That is to where QAnons go to daily. That's what they do. It's their favourite trick. They tag people with the pedo label to shame them for their politics, particularly famous people. Your auntie may not know about this, so it's best to let her know what she's unwittingly buying into before she, falls for it all, hook, line and sinker. So there's some things that QAnons talk about in Australia. Cool, huh?
So we've established that QAnon is a hyper-conservative movement that weaponises a performative concern about children and crocodile tears to leverage against Democrat opponents in America and against, the lockdown now contextually in Australia. In part 2, we'll be getting onto their relevance to the lockdown movement, the connections there, why we should care, and how, if at all, we can de-radicalise QAnons. I look forward to seeing you back then. Thank you very much, and if you do enjoy what I do, then please support me on Patreon.